if you look at how traditionally the royals are laid out, where Harry was put was not a snub. If anything, it was a sign of favor.
A lot of people were saying that it was not disrespectful, but they took issue with the placement of where Harry was sitting at Westminster Abbey behind King Charles. Did you find that to be offensive?
No, not at all. But that's the etiquette. The thing is, if you know what the etiquette is, it actually it's a place of honor. It's not to be one behind the king is actually a sign of favor. What they seem to have done with this etiquette, though, is it's not prioritizing William or Harry, really. To be very clear at this stage, the king's major concern has been to give a place of honor to his sister, Princess Anne, and for the older rules to be relaxed and to stop granting precedence and favor to male members of the family over their sisters. So we saw, for the first time, a female member of the royal family marching behind the coffin. So actually, what we were seeing really was a time for the Queen's children rather than necessarily a focus on the grandchildren. And in particular, I think giving Princess Anne her rightful place in the 21st century monarchy. Princess Anne really is her brother's confidant, and she is hugely admired in Britain for her charitable work. And we've seen that she is someone who's dealing with great heartbreak at her mother's passing. But so I don't think there was a necessarily a priority about William and Harry. But what I will say is that actually where King Charles put Prince Harry is, if you look at how traditionally the royals are laid out, where Harry was put was not a snub. If anything, it was a sign of favor.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you can't, unless you're sitting next to him, you can't get much closer.
Right.
I mean, what's next? Have you heard if Harry and Meghan, if they have left? And
we haven't heard if they have left. We do know that they're quite keen to get home. They have 2 young children back in California. We have heard that they miss them like crazy, which is obviously completely understandable. And it's worth noting, that the Sussexes obviously had not intended to stay in Europe for as long as they had until the Queen fell fatally ill and passed away. So obviously this is an unintended absence from their children for longer than they'd hoped. So we think they are quite keen to get back. But we have heard that there have been, quite a few private family receptions and suppers and gatherings. But we'll maybe hear more about that in the weeks and months ahead. But at the moment, it does seem as if they're, everyone at this funeral has been focused on honouring Elizabeth II's legacy. And the Sussexes, I imagine, will go home fairly soon, simply to reunite with their children.
And like you said before, you feel like Meghan and the Princess of Wales acted impeccably during that.
I really do.
Yeah.
I'm always, I think, impressed by people who can, hold themselves with great grace in large public gatherings. It's not always easy to have so many eyes upon you. And I think if you watch both Catherine and Meghan, you see these, great dignity as they enter the Abbey. You see very respectful, perfectly executed curtsies to the coffin as it passed. Obviously, we know that they both arrived with senior members of the royal family. The Princess of Wales arrived with Camilla, the Queen Consort, and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, arrived with Sophie, the Countess of Wessex. But these, I think, I understand that both have their critics in public life. Everyone has their critics. But I would say if you are determined to criticize them over the Abbey, you probably were planning to criticize them anyway, because to me, watching it from an impartial perspective, I thought not just Catherine and Meghan, but the whole royal family really, and all the royal families and all the elected heads of state, broadly speaking, behaved very well. There was a little bit of a etiquette faux pas from our former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, who allegedly tried to scuttle round former Prime Minister Theresa May to get ahead of her into the Abbey, and one of the ushers very firmly put his hand out and said, no, Theresa May goes first, which I quite liked, because I think if anyone was trying to steal limelight or focus, it was Boris Johnson. He was very much told not to by the ushers, which I enjoyed.
Was it an etiquette snafu that Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan weren't walking in front of Prince William when they were getting into the pew? Because I know that they stopped and let them in first. Was that like
I think it might have been an etiquette snafu. It might also just have been that it would be easier for everyone. You know, I mean, I think anyone who's, I'm just thinking, you know, if you grow up going to church, you know that pew movement is, you have to hold back a move. No, I think either it was, I don't think it was an etiquette snafu. I think it was just Harry and Meghan standing back to let William and Catherine go to where they needed to get to. The Abbey's large, but those chairs are actually quite close together. So I think it was more practical than etiquette based.
For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.